Okay, I'm supposed to follow that. Never mind. Oh my goddess. Whew. Okay, that was beyond, right? Bill Brooks takes the roof off every time. Good thing we have a flexible roof. Let's give some more love to Bill and to Brian. Okay, settle down. No settling down. So the impossible dream. How many of us actually dream impossible dreams? Or are we more of a realist who is more reality-based on what can really be, right? You know, we don't want to get our heads too far into the clouds or, keep your feet on the ground, and that's just daydreaming. Anyone hear that when you were a kid? And probably maybe think that and feel that way now. So the impossible dream, what is that? And I think that's about seeing a world that works for every one of us. So today's talk title is entitled, Do You Know the Way? And I want to go, do you know the way to San Jose? But I was going to say, and to Santa Fe. So who knows who is the singer of Do You Know the Way to San Jose? It's Dionne Warwick. Okay, what year? Okay. Did I hear 1968? Well, then, yes, 1968. Do You Know the Way to San Jose by Dionne Warwick. So actually, today's talk is based off of the phrase, where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, yes. Where there's a will, there's a way. And we have been studying various spiritual powers that we all have, because Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, metaphysically studied all the people and places in the Bible and understood that they all represented aspects of ourself. And so he looked at the 12 disciples and realized each of them had a specific energetic and a power or a spiritual ability, which each and every one of us have. The only thing is we don't necessarily know that we have these abilities. So the goal is that every month we look at another ability, we become aware of it, and we just don't become aware of it. We actually utilize that power to better our lives. So the one that we've been focusing on for the month of April is will. Yes? Everybody, will. I will remember this. So what is will? I'll give you a definition, or a couple of them. The definition of will in the dictionary is someone's determination to do what is necessary to achieve what they want. Number two, what someone wants to happen, like the will of the people. And number three, definition of will is it's an ability to make decisions and take action. So that's the dictionary definition. Then there's a book called Power Up Your Life, and that is a study of the 12 powers. And it says in there that will is our power to choose, determine, dictate, direct, and determine, and decide, a bunch of D's. So Charles Fillmore actually calls the will the executive power of our minds, because you can have all these other powers like your imagination, but it's the will that is the movement. You have to have the will to move. Now, how many of you have heard the word God's will? Right? Ever wonder what that means? God's will for my life, or that's not God's will. Or how about Jesus, the great way shower, says, not my will, but thine be done. So I want to share with you some thoughts about what God's will is. And this is from Power Up Your Life. The statement, God's will, actually comes from a belief that there's a God out there that has a specific imposed script, a kind of divine plan or predetermination where God has already made all the choices in your life. It's like that thing about having, is it fate? Was it fated to be this or that? Goes on to say, from this perspective, the power of will would be based on predetermined choices, which basically means no choice whatsoever, really. Says, we believe this whole idea stems from the religious practices in which people were raised. This kind of interpretation of God's will implies a separation, a sense of an anthropomorphic God out there micromanaging our lives. In actuality, the will of God is non-specific for our lives and our circumstances. The divine plan, you want to know what it is? Oh, okay, I'll talk to you afterwards. The divine plan is that each of us make the very best choices to express the maximum amount of goodness and godness and elevated consciousness that we have at our present awareness, and to continually grow that and to evolve and to elevate or raise our consciousness. And we use the will for this purpose. So that gives you there's no will for your life, God's will outside of yourself. But it does seek for you to have the greatest experience of life and to understand the laws and to be able to use them for your benefit. Now, the word that Jesus spoke that's recorded is, not my will, but thine be done. What was Jesus doing in that moment? Sounds like he's talking to, hey, it's not my will, it's yours. Sounds that way. However, the word will, translated from Greek, is thelema, which means determination, either by choice or intention or purpose. See, Jesus wasn't talking to the God outside. You know what he was doing? He was doing self-talk. Hello. Every one of us do self-talk. You have a part of you that goes, I'm not really interested in going to Jerusalem because I'm not into it. I'm not into having some terrible things happen and to die. I think I'll just pass. So that was part of him. And then there was the other part, his higher part, which was say, we came here for a purpose. We have a mission. So he was having self-talk. That's all that was. He wasn't talking to God outside of him. It was part of him was saying this thing, and part of him said this one. And he chose, again, the word choice was the will. He chose to, I'm going to go and I'm going to fulfill my purpose. Because even though it doesn't look like it's going to be a fun experience, and heck, it was not, but it's all metaphysical. It was killing off the idea that he was separated from God. It was crucifying all the belief systems that were limiting and not based in truth. So this is a whole metaphysical story about our consciousness. So he chose to follow the impossible dream. So does that help clarify God's will a little bit for you? Okay, great. So we're going to move on now into the three components of will. And we studied two of those 3 weeks ago, so I'm going to really have to have you dig in your file cabinet. It was called The Three Big C's. Now, there's another book that I highly recommend, and it's called Divine Audacity by the author who's also written How to Pray Without Talking to God. It's by Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. So she talks about the 12 powers, and she breaks them into three components. So will, who remembers the 3 C's? Oh boy, it's like really quiet in here. I know it was 3 weeks ago. I can't remember what I did yesterday. One of them? Courage is one. Choice? Commitment. Yay, we got it. Okay. I think some of the folks online said it. I was imagining that they were remembering. They were looking at their notes. So choice is the first thing. Choice. We make 1 billion choices a day. How many choices did you make already today? It's ridiculous. We are making choices nonstop. Everything is always a choice. However, here's the thing. Are you aware that everything you're doing is a choice, or are you unconscious to the choices? Oh, I'm not even thinking that I'm making a choices. We get habits, and that's not a bad thing. However, what if you brought your awareness into, and now we have a C that we add to choice called conscious choices. What is this choice going to do in the big effect? If I'm choosing to release some of the extra weight because I choose not to have it anymore, I'm going to make choices, right? It's all about the choices and being conscious of what choices that we're making and what effect that has down the line. It may not have an effect today, but everything has an effect. It's cause and effect. So once you make a conscious choice on some level, then we go to the second C, which is commitment. And those are the two that Reverend Linda speaks about, choices and commitment. She says that we make a choice and then we commit to that choice. From her book, Divine Audacity, she says, out of the infinite possibilities, I've chosen one. I determine which one is mine. And I resolve to follow its calling. And then I commit to it. Commitment puts me on a particular path, and it does not lead to random action, but deliberate, intentional actions. Choosing and following this one path means I don't choose another path or flip back and forth. I one-pointedly, wholeheartedly commit myself and devote myself to the path, not necessarily to the end result, but to the path. And basically that means you do it whether you feel like it or not. Okay, meditation practice. Exercising. You ever think, I'm committed to this? I don't feel like getting up and sitting on the cushion or doing a meditation or going to the gym. The Spirit would always do this to me. She'd go, we're going. We're going to the gym. We're going to meditate. We're doing it. There's a commitment. Because otherwise, it's just words. I made a choice, and it has no backup. It is that thing that says, I'm taking action, whether I feel like it or not. It's the Nike slogan, just do it. Just do it. It's the warrior part of us, the one that says, I'm taking action regardless of my feelings. So you can have your feelings and take action too. I don't feel like doing it. Still, you want to do it. So now we're moving into the third component. And courage was the word that I attached to commitment. Because sometimes it takes courage to say, I'm committing to something, right? Because we say the big C, to commit to something. That means I got to stay on it. So to have that part of us that says, I'm going to be courageous enough to do this because I know it's for the highest and greatest good. So would you like to know the third component according to Reverend Linda? That's your part. What was that answer? Yes? Okay. You're not nodding off on me, are you? So this word is called willingness. Willingness. Now, will, there's the power of will, and there's willpower. Okay? They're different. Willpower is when I basically make up my mind of what I want, and I know how to get it, and I'm going for it. I have willpower to do this. It basically says, I know what I want, and I know how to get it, period. I'm going to do this, I'm going to have it, and I'm following my plan. That's willpower, that's willfulness. We're full of our own will. Then you go to the other side, willingness. It's a whole different energy. Willingness is to recognize that the universe we're connected to, that we are supported by a universe that is here to support us and to guide us. And when we get that, then we become aware that I don't have to know it all, right? And we all like to know it all. In fact, the less I know, the better I am, because Spirit knows. I need to make a way for Spirit. Do you know the way? Make a way for Spirit to bring its ideas and thoughts in. Because I'm limited in what I think. I'm limited. I know this, but how much I don't know, how much more there is. And here's the thing about willingness versus willfulness. Willfulness means we're in control. I know what I'm having, and I know how to get there. And by God, I'm going to get there. It's limited, and it's not trusting. Willingness is trust, and it's being open, right? So either I'm willful, and I'm set on this path, I'm closed, I'm limited, or I'm willing because I trust. Trust is the big word. Do you trust? And that means that we might feel a little anxious because we aren't in control, right? And we like to feel like we're in control, personally. It's that uncertainty. So I'll give you a little example of where I could see that in my life. When I was 18 years old, I was a deli manager in my father's store, grocery store he built from the ground up it was Luoma's Value King in Geneva, Ohio. I had been a cashier for 4 years, 14 to 18, and then I became the deli manager. And I had 10 employees that worked for me, and my dad was my role model. And basically, he was a very charismatic entrepreneur man, and he also had set ideas on how things should be, and that they needed to be really, really well done. Well, I followed in his footsteps. And when you're in a deli, presentation is everything. It needs to look good because that's food that you're going to be eating and it's fresh. And so we would make deli trays, making the meat and the cheese or the vegetables or various trays for people in catering. And I used to tell people, they'd come to me and go, how do you want this done? And I'd show them, and then they would follow that pattern of how to make that tray really look good. Well, then I had this awakening about what the purpose of life is at age 19. And it was about love. And I was so high on this idea of love that I released my fears in a really interesting way. People would come to me, my employees, and say, how did you want this tray made? And I'd look at them and say, whatever you think is going to be great, right? And they looked at me like they were a little disturbed because this was not my MO. I would be happy to show you. But I was willing to let go of control and to trust that they could do a good job on their own. They didn't need my controlling way of being, my way or the highway, right? No, it's many different ways, and to give people permission to do that, just like the song at the beginning, you give yourself permission. So, to know the way, to become the way. So we want to become that trusting. So in the recap, we've already talked about choice, commitment, and what's the third one we just said? No, we're going for the W. There you go, the willing. There's one other piece to this idea of will, and that word is focus. Focus. Will is about focusing our attention and our energy. We want to focus our attention deliberately on something, because a commitment means you're focusing on some one path, not all over the place in that scattered way of being. Our power of will is our inborn ability to focus and direct our intention towards a desired objective. Now you can look at your body. I have an intention and a commitment to being healthy. Therefore, I am going to focus my attention on what foods are going to really benefit my body and what type of movement is going to be beneficial. I commit and I focus on these things. I don't just be like whatever, but I focus. Then we have the mental. How do you get your focus? Well, when you're focusing, what you want to do with your mind is you want to divert the attention away from negative, limiting thoughts and beliefs. So you basically turn away from them and you focus on the truth. You focus on things that you would love and not on the things that you fear. So again, it's focusing. Where are you putting your focus? That is your will, because you have this power Or you can let it be scattered all over the place and you're not going to get anywhere. And the third part is spiritually. You could focus your life on spirit, on love, on being love. You could focus your attention on the kingdom. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven within, and all these things will be added unto you. I personally love focusing my attention on the divine. Everything is the divine in expression, and when I remember that, it changes the energies. So focus is the key. Now, would you like to know how to achieve your impossible dream? How to exercise your muscle, because it's a muscle, of will? Would you like to know the exercises or how you can actually increase your focus and your ability to use your will? Yeah. Very good. You're on cue. Boy, you're all doing great. So basically it's set up with the phrase, where there's a will, there's a way. The word is way, and I give you an acronym for way. The W stands for work your will muscle. Work your will muscle. You need to do the work. Because if you go to the gym once or twice, how's that going to benefit you? You do this as a spiritual exercise, a practice every day or every week. It only grows stronger. You can't just do a couple of these exercises and think, well, I've mastered will. That's not the way it works. We need to continually practice these 3 exercises, and you may not like doing them. In fact, maybe not, probably not. But you have a commitment that I'm going to strengthen my power of my will. So, the 3 exercises. First of all, you can get a candle, or have a candle, or a dot on the wall. It really doesn't matter. But what you get to do is you focus on the flame or the dot on the wall. And do it for, let's just start you off with 5 minutes. See how long it takes before you have a thought, right? I'm looking at the flame. There will be a thought. Your mind is like a puppy. You're trying to teach it how to sit, and it wants to get up. Sit. You want to bring your mind back. It's not good or bad. How many times you can bring your mind back? This is the power of your focus and your will, and you actually get stronger by doing this. And do this on a regular basis. This isn't a one-time deal. You can also use focus in a mantra and just to repeat over and over, 5-10 minutes. And easy ones for me are, God is here, I am here. God is here, I am here. Or God is, I am. And you just repeat the phrase for 5 minutes. I bet you see your mind go somewhere even when you're doing this. Bring your mind back to it. So, the mantra, the candle, and you can also just use that delicious thing called your breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Of course, we're not doing that for 5 minutes right now, but this is your experiment. Go home today and do that and see. And it's not a thing that your mind wanders. It's going to wander. Expect it. It's okay. Your job is to bring it back. Sit. Sit. Candle. Mantra. Breath. Just bring it back. It actually gets stronger. You may not know or believe this to be true, but it does work that way. So, now you know the way, because you have the will, and you know the way. You're going to, I only talked about the W. I think I should tell you the other 2. The A in way is access spirit. Access. Because we want to be open to, and the 3 A's that fall under access are to ask, to allow, and to accept. It's about going into the silence. It's about going into the silence and listening to that still small voice. So we ask, and we allow whatever is present, because we are letting go of willfulness. And we simply accept what comes. We want to be prayed up. And if you want to know more about prayer, just join the class. So now you've got you're working your will muscles, you're accessing spirit, and then the Y stands for yield. Yield to spirit. Yield to the greater good. You might have something in mind, and spirit has something greater. Yield means to make way and get out of the way. Get out of the way and make way for spirit, and to yield to spirit's ideas, new thoughts. And in that yielding, say yes. So there's the Y of yield and yes. So we want to get out of the way of spirit. And when we get out of the way, we become the way. Jesus himself said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Which means we need to release anything that's in the way of spirit, because it's all the divine. So you now know the way. Let's release what's in the way. Get out of the way and release and become the way. And do it today. Namaste.